going to take a look at this Nightcat backpacking tent that they sent me for review. First, I'll give you guys an overview and sort of a tour of the tent, and then I'll show you how to set it up and tear it down. If you want to learn more about this tent, there will be links down in the description below. So let's start at the top and work our way down. Up here obviously is sort of a small Rainfly that covers just the very top of the tent, which is screen mesh and open for ventilation. So the Rainfly and most of the tent is made from rainproof 210T polyester taffeta PU 3000 millimeter. The tent poles are segmented fiberglass poles connected together with these steel couplers and have shock cord in the middle where they join together to keep everything in one piece. The Rainfly attaches to a nylon loop that is attached to the strap that is midway up the side of the tent on 3 of the 4 corners. On one corner of the tent, the Rainfly is permanently attached through a sewn loop. That way the Rainfly can be removed from the top of the tent for maximum ventilation, but will never get lost or separated from the tent itself. The tent has a single door on one side, but there is a small vestibule that you can stake out for extra storage outside the tent. So the zipper on the outer part of the door feels like a pretty decent quality zipper, and it does sort of have a weather flap to go over the top and keep that rainwater out. So the vestibule door can be rolled up and cinched out of the way using this dog bone strap and loop to hold it in place. Inside the vestibule, there's room for probably a small to medium-sized backpack and maybe a pair of boots. The inner screen door is made out of nice fine charcoal colored mesh, and there's actually 3 zippers, 2 on the bottom and 1 in the middle, that all seem about the same quality as the outer zipper. The floor of the tent is made from 150D Oxford fabric PU 3000 millimeter. Now the floor is sort of a bathtub design, meaning that the floor kind of goes up the sidewall a little bit before we run into a seam. And that should be good for keeping that moisture out from getting into the corners. Speaking of the corners, you can see that they are reinforced with extra material. And just like all of the seams on this tent, they are double stitched and seam sealed on the back with seam seal tape. The very top part of the tent is made out of more screen for ventilation, and of course the Rainfly is up there above it. There is a single hook in the middle, so if you want to hang a lantern or something, you can do that. And there's just one single pocket inside the tent for storing your keys and cell phone and other miscellaneous items. One thing to note about the cord supplied with the tent and all of these hook straps is that there is reflective material sewn into them, so that at night, if you shine your flashlight towards your tent, these things will reflect and help you find it in the dark. To give you some idea of how much room is inside the tent, I'm about 5 foot 6 inches tall, and I can crawl in this tent and I can kneel comfortably, and my head just barely touches the screen up top. Now I did take some measurements, and the floor to ceiling height is about 40 inches. The length is about 82 inches, and the depth is about 47 inches. I can lay fully down in the tent, fully outstretched, and I've got a little bit of room on either side of me for some extra gear, but not a lot, honestly. Just like other Nightcat tents I've reviewed in the past, I'm impressed with the quality of material and fit and finish on this arguably entry-level budget tent. Now this is marketed as a backpacking tent, but it is kind of bigger and bulkier than sort of maybe a more expensive option. So if you're thinking about getting into backpacking and want to try a backpacking tent without spending a lot of money, this may be an option you want to consider. Now one thing I don't like about the tent is the size of the Rainfly. It's obviously very small. Now, having said that, I think if you're in a light rain situation, it's going to do just fine, especially since the sidewalls of the tent are made from the same material. I don't think you'll get wet. But if it's raining kind of heavy and maybe windy too, there's a good possibility that rainwater is going to get up under this Rainfly and get in the tent. The only other thing I guess I can knock this for is maybe the size of the vestibule. It's a little bit small, especially if you've got a bigger pack. I don't think it's going to fit fully under the vestibule. But if you've got a smaller pack or just want to keep your boots in there, I think it'll be just fine. But given the price, and as I said, the quality of materials and fit and finish, I think this is actually an excellent value for somebody that wants to try out a backpacking tent without spending a ton of money. Now, if you want to learn more about the tent, there will be a product link down in the description below. But now I'll show you guys how to set the tent up and take it down. Completely packed up in its case, the tent weighs about 4¼ pounds. It measures roughly 17 inches long and about 5½ inches high and 5½ inches deep. Taking a look at the duffel bag that the tent is stored in, we can see that it is made from the same material as the tent. It's got 2 cinch straps on it that can be tightened up so that the whole package can be made as small as possible to fit in your backpack. On the opening side, we have a typical cinch strap with a locking clamp here. Loosening these cinch straps is pretty easy. You just have to lift up on the buckle and everything kind of loosens up, so it's not too hard to remove the tent from the case. But we'll roll it out and see what comes in the pack. So in the package, we of course have the tent body itself. The Rainfly is sort of pre-attached to the top of the tent. We'll take a closer look at that later in the video. We have an instruction sheet that tells us how to put the tent up. We've got a bag with fiberglass tent poles in it. We've also got a small bag containing the steel wire type stakes. And we've got some orange cordage with plastic cinches. So I've got the tent spread out behind me on the ground, and I've got the tent poles assembled. There's shock cord in the middle here, and they just snap together easily. I've got the poles laid out on the tent and crossed in the middle. Now I'll go to each corner and I will install the end of the pole into the grommet that's on the strap at each corner. Next I'll grab the pole that's underneath and I'll sort of walk it up into an arc, making sure that the other end stays in that grommet on that strap. And then I'll install this end of it into this grommet. Now I'll grab the other pole and do the same thing on the other corner. Now, unlike an aluminum frame tent, these fiberglass poles don't really want to stay up on their own. So I'm going to kind of hold them in place while I grab the clips on the corners of the tents and start locking them onto the poles. Once I get a few of the clips in, the poles will stay up on their own. Now that all the clips are in place, I've got the Rainfly over top, and I will grab the hooks that are at the 3 free ends of the Rainfly and hook those onto the loops that are on the clips about halfway up the side of the tent. So now I'll stake the tent down to the ground, starting with the vestibule in the front. And then I'll stake each of the 4 corners through the loop at the end of the strap. Now I can grab the supplied cords and tie them off to the corner supports at each of the 4 corners of the tent. And then I'll just stretch this out to a convenient spot and stake it out. Once I've got the cord staked where I want it, I can grab the adjuster and just cinch it up so it's nice and tight. Tearing the tent down is pretty much the opposite of setting it up. So we'll do that in fast motion. I hope you enjoyed my overview of the Nightcat backpacking tent. Thanks for watching.